Good morning, and welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church of Rochester. We're a church of open minds and loving hearts, nurturing spirituality and practicing justice, celebrating many sources of wisdom and many spiritual paths. Your faith, your doubts, your questions, your identities are welcome here. Special welcome to visitors and newcomers. We're glad you're here. There's a preschool playroom open throughout the morning for young ones and classes for kids following the time for all ages. And after service, you can join us downstairs for refreshments in the Commons, where you can learn about ways to get involved in the church and the wider community. So please join us for that. And most Sundays, our offering collection goes out our doors to justice work in the community. Once a month, the offering stays in-house to support our mission in a variety of ways. So today's collection is called Drop in the Bucket, which will make a little more sense in a little bit, supporting the Building Our Future Fund, which helps to cover early expenses in the planning process for our new church home before we engage a larger capital campaign later on. If you're able to pitch in a little bit to help with some of these early costs, you can give as a plates pass today or using the QR code in your order of service as well and giving online. Thank you for your generosity. And today we're glad to welcome a few guests. First, our featured musician, Ellis, folk musician from the Twin Cities. Welcome back. And a fellow UU, so glad to have you here and your music to bless us this morning. Welcome. As well as the Reverend Vale Weller, a dear colleague from California, but serves our national association as the Congregational Giving Director for the Unitarian Universalist Association. I'm so glad you're here and being willing to be kind of worship leader, worship associate today. So welcome, Vale. Glad you're here. And we're also glad to have Rachel Maxwell around this week, who is leading our feasibility study. She's our consultant, meeting with a diverse group of church members throughout the week to learn about their intentions and to learn about them as they figure out and plan for a future possible capital campaign and gathering information on that. She'll host a conversation about that work this Wednesday night for our forum. So you can join us on Wednesday. There's a prepared supper followed by childcare, the forum, choir, and youth group. Suppers at 5:30. The forum's at 6:15. So we hope you can join us this Wednesday for an important conversation in this process. So as we enter our time of worship, I invite you to just take a breath and settle in. I invite you to let today's music rest in silence after the music, to let the sound settle a bit and save any applause for the end of the service. We enter our time of worship with these words from our minister in the 1870s, the Reverend Eliza Tupper Wilkes. May our faith in humanity and our message of hope and good cheer light our way. It's good to be together. In just a moment, the music will call us back for our opening hymn, which is in your gray hymnal. But before we sing, I invite you to rise in body or spirit and greet those around you as well as those online as well.
Good morning. These words are from James Vila Blake. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
How many roads have I chosen? How many bags can I really put down? How many oceans must I dive into before I drown? Before I can be king of my conscience, before I wear the crown, so I won't forget How many swords must go through my heart before I let the sweet love in? There are many ways to be careless, stories that we tell, and even when they are lies, we hold them like they're fragile, so afraid to break the spell. How many fires must I walk through? How many matches? I burned through them all, and somewhere down the line I can blame somebody. But right now I'm the only one taking the fall. There are many ways to be careless, stories that we tell, and even when they are lies, we hold them like they're fragile, so afraid. I want to break. I want to break. I want to break. I want to break the spell.
Good morning. As Luke shared, I'm Reverend Vale Weller, and I wanted to just jump into this sacred space to offer you some appreciation. I bring you greetings this morning from the 1,000 plus congregations across our association, the network of Unitarian Universalists that brings our faith to life. This congregation is a member congregation in the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, and there's also a structure and a staff that we call the UUA, people whom we empower to serve our faith regionally and nationally. And I'm one of those. My ministry focuses on strengthening financial support for our movement, particularly through congregational giving to the annual program fund, as well as with individual donors and families who wish to support the larger faith philanthropically. So please do see me if you'd like to talk about that. The UUA has a mission to equip congregations for vital ministry, support and train leaders, both lay and professional, and to advance UU values in the world. And you make this mission possible. There are things that no individual congregation can do alone. We are far more together than we can possibly be separately. We need each other. As you know, the stakes are very high. A strengthened Unitarian Universalism brings hope, healing, justice, and joy to a world in need of our values. This congregation, the First UU Church of Rochester, is one of the 50 most generous honor congregations across our association. This means that you give the full amount requested annually to support your sibling congregations across the UUA, and that you are among the most generous of our honor congregations. Therefore, I jumped at the chance to be here with you this morning to bring you greetings as a representative of the association and to say thank you for your leadership, for the gift that your minister and staff are to our region and to our UUA, and for your consistent, dedicated generosity. Thank you.
Speaking of generosity, I want to invite the children forward because I have a bucket. That's a good way to start any story, isn't it? Come on, kids. I have a bucket and a story to tell you about it. So I want you to think back. Do you know this church building is our fourth church building that the congregation, that's the people who gather, has gathered in since 1866. That's a long time ago. Is that before any of you were born? It's before I was born even, and even everyone in this room, I'm pretty sure. So 1866, they gathered in a small little chapel in downtown Rochester where the Plummer Building is now. And then they built a bigger church and a space there. And during that time, they didn't have electric lights in the sanctuary. So look up at the ceiling. We have all these lights that light it up. When these are all off, it's pretty dark in here. You notice there's not a lot of window natural light in here either. So it gets pretty dark. So how they lit the sanctuary then was with flames like this, but they were in lanterns. They're around the sides, but they're also hanging from chandeliers. Have you seen a chandelier before? These big lights that hang from the ceiling. Yes, you have. How do you light it? It's a really good idea. I will check that. A pulley system? I was going to say, find out at the 11 o'clock service. Clearly I'm a millennial and have no idea. I'm sure there's a switch somewhere. So a pulley, I guess, comes down, and then they put more oil in it, and they keep it lit, and it goes back up. But there was a dramatic story that happened in the late 1800s. There were some people gathered in the church, and one of the chandeliers fell. The rope, the chain that was holding it, fell, and it had 16 lanterns in it that were lit, that had fire in them. So when it fell, it was a little scary, but luckily people were there. So it fell, and a small little fire started in the church. And what they did was they formed what's called a bucket brigade. Do you know what a bucket brigade is? Well, you kind of do. So you've maybe heard of it. We're going to act it out a little bit. So let's pretend that these flames here, these are flames we don't want on. So that's where the chandelier fell, okay? And let's pretend that way over here, this is where we had water. Maybe it was used for some of the horses that would come outside, and like a trough, and they just had some water there, or it was used for cleaning, and they had buckets, all right? So what do you think they'd have to do? Yes? Yes. And do you think they had enough buckets for everybody? No, I don't think they probably did. And so they had like one or two buckets. And you know, the quickest way to get the water to the fire was to pass it down a line. So can you form a line right here, stretching all the way over there? And this isn't going to make complete sense because it's just the way it's going to be, but the bucket's going to be here. And pretend we have one other bucket. So make a line kind of spread out from that bucket all the way over here. And we are going to pass it, all right, to make sure that we save the church from ruin. So here's water. Ready? These are just little drops of water. So pass it along the line real quick. Here comes another one. Here comes another one. And then get it down all the way into that bucket. There you go. Can you put it in the bucket? And other adults can help join the bucket brigade too if you want. Just to get all the way. Oh, thank you. Look at them. Just jump into action. There you go. The church, yes, Vale reminds us the church is on fire, so we kind of do need everybody. That'd be great. Okay, and can you drop it, Beth? When you drop it in, can you make it so we can hear it? Yes. All right, there's some still coming. This is how you get the fire out, is you take every little drop, and eventually the bucket fills up. But this is just like, this is for the early cost. This isn't here's the capital campaign. And so pass that one down as fast as you can, and then we'll listen to how that one sounds. That'll be in a few months. That'll be a big drop in the bucket. We just need little ones so far. It's going, it's going, it's going. Yes! And the church is saved from ruin. Thank you, Bucket Brigade. So all of this is to say, it takes all of us working together to take something that we need to save our community and nourish it and bring it to where it needs to be. And we each take our part in the line to save the church from ruin. That's how we do it. So thank you, Bucket Brigaders. Thank you, children, for helping out. Amy's going to take you down for class as we sing the children's benediction. It's in the back inside cover of your gray hymnal.
Good morning again. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I'm a product of the family I was born into and the house I was raised in, and I am also a living expression of the Unitarian Universalist congregation in which I was raised. That church is where I went to religious education every week, where my parents were lay leaders, where I was married, and later ordained into our ministry. My home church, the UU Church of the North Hills in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, is an old dairy barn, transformed into a beautiful church. This was the place where I spent every Sunday of my childhood. Those classroom mornings taught me about world religions, about Unitarian Universalism, and about sexuality. Running around coffee hour, I encountered adults other than my parents who cared about and looked out for me. Those other adults were activists in the community who taught me about feminism and how to canoe. They treated me with respect and genuine affection. I knew there that I mattered. Those other adults did not know at the time, and certainly I did not know either, that their simple, profound acts of consistent caring would help shape the container in which I heard the call to ministry. Exposure to the sacred also shaped my call to ministry, of course, through music and flowers and beauty and creative worship services, silent meditation, and theological contemplation that I experienced in that space. But none of this would have happened if had not a few brave people had the audacious, my goodness, it's, stuns me to even think of it now, the audacious vision to turn a dairy barn into a church. I did not know as a child, the way I do now, that the work of building and sustaining a thriving church is plodding, sometimes difficult work, common as mud. The creation of a church over time requires that people show up so that there is energy present on a Sunday morning. It requires that people agree to serve in leadership when possible. It means committing to give of our money consistently and generously. It means noticing the children and treating them with consideration and respect, knowing that they are the church of the future. Creating a thriving church is made possible by always welcoming new ideas and new folks with enthusiasm. A thriving church is made possible by having an amazing minister and a collaborative, loving relationship between the minister and the leaders and the staff. A thriving church is made possible by dreaming audacious dreams and stretching toward them. Creating a thriving church means funding the big dreams by stretching to give as much as we possibly can. Yes, this kind of commitment is often plodding and could be seen as common as mud. But what this institution shaping makes possible is nothing short of life-saving and life-transforming ministry. The fundamental nature of gifts is that they move. The fundamental nature of gifts is that they move. This place was made possible by those who came before, and we now take our place in the order of things as ones who make it possible for those who come after. As we have been blessed, we now bless. May it be so.
Wish for you to be free from doubt. When you feel left behind or left out, when the world seems brighter everywhere else, and your mind is lost inside a wishing well. Right on time, you are right on time. You're right on time. Remember, the heart is a tender thing, restless and hopeful, it cries and sings. And sometimes you need shelter and a space to be a little tough, not tough enough, a little lost at sea. And when everyone is racing and you join in, if you can, try running with a smile, 'cause there is a danger in going too fast, or getting too far ahead can set you back. Right on time, you are right on time, you're right on time. You are right on time, you're right on time. And when you're tired and on your own, cried so many tears, they're all gone. When there's nothing you haven't tried to fix this uncertain road. Oh, when everywhere you look you see regret, caught up in the past and what might have been. What we can never know will make our heads spin. A little love, a little trust, a lot of forgiveness. Right on time, you are right on time, you're right on time. What What if we're right on time? We're right on time. We're right on time.
Thank you. I invite you to take a deep breath. Breathe deep the breath of life. Feel below you the earth and its ancient turning. Above you the sky, and beyond that the stars shining with their ancient light, holding you in this moment. This breath you yourself made of earth and stars. Know that in this house you are named and known as beloved, as sacred. I invite you into this time of meditation, this time of prayer, first by sharing silence together. Spirit of life, source of love, God and Gaia of many names and beyond all naming. Help us feel rooted this day, not in ways that feel tethered in place, but like the roots of trees or ferns and more that for generations keep stretching out wide, not just down deep. Connected to the earth, connected to each other, finding nourishment even in the dark soil of every direction. As the world always feels overwhelming, and the impact of our small kindnesses or actions feel limited, help us know it's only by 1,000 small acts that something larger is realized. It is only breath by breath or moment by moment that a life or a history or a story comes to being. Help us stretch our hearts and minds wider and wider still, right from where we are, to notice and care for the world, knowing it all adds up, it all matters. May we be instruments of love in the world, noticing the beauty around us, being honest about harm done to ourselves or others, that we might live in the ways of reconciliation and love. We hold in our hearts this day all those who suffer in mind, body, or spirit. Today we hold in our hearts those in the Middle East, always and yet in the midst of violence and war. We hold the unnoticed places that we might be growing in our compassion and awareness to hold both headlines and quiet stories in care and in action and in love. I invite you to bring names you're holding in your own heart this day, people or places that you are holding in love or care, joy or sorrow, and silently or aloud now in this time to speak their names. For all the names spoken and unspoken, may we all be held in love and grace. These words of meditation are from the Jewish Talmud, commentary on the words by the prophet Micah. Do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justly now. Love mercy now. Journey humbly now. You are not obligated to complete the work. but neither are you free to abandon it. May that be so. Amen. Rose will lead us in our meditation hymn.
Number 84.
How far can reach a smile? How high a helping hand can lift? How far is far enough to give? Is there a way to learn just how a kindness speaks, or where it goes should love be caught to hold? For God pours out his love in all that lives through God. We see that life can never cease to give. If we then think our small amount of help would not go far, and so don't give, would we still live?
The first reading is an excerpt from Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. The fundamental nature of gifts is that they move, and their value increases with their passage. The more something is shared, the greater its value becomes. In the gift economy, gifts are not free. The essence of the gift is that it creates a set of relationships. The currency of a gift economy is, at its root, reciprocity. In Western thinking, private land is understood to be a bundle of rights, whereas in a gift economy, property has a bundle of responsibilities attached. And the second reading is To Be of Use by Marge Piercy. The people I love the best jump into work headfirst without dallying in the shallows and swim off with sure strokes almost out of sight. They seem to become natives of that element, the black, sleek heads of seals bouncing like half-submerged balls. I love people who harness themselves, an ox to a heavy cart, who pull like water buffalo with massive patience, who strain in the mud and the muck to move things forward and do what has to be done again and again. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who are not parlor generals and field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire be put out. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust. But the thing worth doing, well done, has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Greek amphoras for wine or oil, Hopi vases that held corn, are put in museums, but you know they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry, and a person for work that is real. The offering will now be gratefully accepted.
Red light, forget all this intent. Forest from the trees, I can't not see. We are made from a grain of sand. Words are noisy, forget holy, anger and wisdom, caution, caution, listen for red light. Before I spoke, how do we stop in the middle of go? We dance and we fight and we make love and we lose sight. Forest from the trees, touchdown in May. We are made from a grain of sand, and we don't know why we're all spinning, crashing down. See you again with a red light, with a red light, with a red light.
Thank you, Alice. In the timeline of our history, our heritage, which is our monthly theme, it says 1889, fire in the church. One of the chandeliers broke and both chandeliers fell to the floor and broke, each holding 16 kerosene lamps. It's a pretty explosive telling of our history. 6 pews, it says, caught fire, as well as the carpet and the cushions. The women who were in the building at the time formed a bucket brigade and limited the damage to $500. Women saved the church from ruin, as typically is what happens. Sometimes, when the ceiling crashes down and the world seems to burst into flame, The only way to keep each other alive and safe, the only way to care for the places and people you love, is to join together and do your part. Sometimes I'm struck in this situation, it means waiting a bit, staying in position in that line to do your part, even when it is not your turn to do anything other than to wait. And remember that being part of something, being part of community, being part of some project or caring is to know that you can't go alone, that you can't forge ahead by yourself, because the line needs you and you need the line. So you accept the life-saving gift from the person next to you of something as simple and miraculous as water, and you do your part to pass it along so that everyone is cared for. And while at the end not everything was perfect, sometimes things get damaged. And maybe a lesson of the story is not that the fire was put out, but that the damage was limited to $500. That if they didn't work together, things would have been worse. So instead of complete ruin in a hard and a harsh world, we do what we can to prevent catastrophe and damage and harm, and then commit to the hours, the days, the years ahead to keep at it, to gather up among the damage and the still burning embers and the certain impact on the soul of the light crashing down in the sanctuary from a harsh world, knowing every commitment worth making is about making it for the long term. The work of the world is common as mud, writes the poet. But the thing worth doing well has a shape that satisfies. Vases that held corn are put in museums, but you know they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry, and the person for work that is real. Work that is real, and that's common as mud. There are some days when it is clear what needs to be done, of what lies before you, what tasks are around you, spread like a checklist or a clear timeline, maybe with deadlines or a calendar of events. There are some days, though, when something breaks in and takes hold of that checklist and throws it away and demands your immediate attention. Say when some crisis like a fire breaks out, or the equivalent of something in the soul, an emergent or critical need of mind or body or spirit, your own or another's, and it takes all of your attention. And you know, even if you don't know exactly what needs to be done, all your energy, all your focus is there. It was like the day that we waited for all the tests to come back from an odd, overly high fever that wouldn't break. And all the regular tests kept coming back without concern, which was good and wasn't good. Maybe you know that. Maybe many of you working in or adjacent to medicine know that much better than I do, and know that sometimes when a result comes back as no concern, then you're concerned about something else entirely. For some of us non-medical folks, civilians, I like to call us, it means trying your hardest to avoid the web search scroll of doom, where it most often turns out that there's every possible disease that this is, and you probably have all of them. So instead, it means trying to resist that and just ask the doctor, so what are you testing for now? And in their kindest bedside manner, they say some more serious things. And the list they gently rattle off as kindly as they can just puts you into a slow forethought of grief, as if worry and grief and fear have a sound of just lists of things. So you quietly leave behind all the other things that were on your checklist for the day, the week, because the mind and the heart are focused now somewhere else. And you sit trying to take a breath, just waiting for results. Waiting, again, is the hardest part. It's a much less clear but still very real line of connection, though. Waiting in that line, a line connecting hearts of loved ones, a line connecting the expertise of healers coming in the form of researchers or lab techs and more. We're always in some line of connection. sometimes being offered a gift of information or love or compassion, sometimes holding that gift in our own hands for a time, and then when the time comes to pass that along however we need to or can, to wherever it needs to go next, that love, that compassion. That's the blessing and the curse of the online medical portal on your phone. It dings at you with information, not the calmest bedside manner, ding, but luckily, that time, it was just a high fever, a random virus, and for the time, all was well. A little damage, sure, to the body, the soul, probably about $500 actually, but certainly safe for now from ruin. But there was something poignant about sitting in that spot of uncertainty that many of you have been in similar or more dramatic or worse waitings. This time, for me at least, it was literally sitting in a quiet living room on a winter afternoon, not really being able to think about or do anything else, just waiting for results. Small crisis had barged its way in, was there for a little while, and then quick as it came was mostly gone. But even a seemingly small thing can have a lasting impact. A seemingly small thing can have a lasting impact in so many ways. Be it a flame and a little oil and a broken chain, or just a drop of water in a bucket and then another and another in an unbroken chain. These relationships of connection. Work that is real and common as mud, writes the poet. There are other days when things may be just as uncertain but without a focused intensity or energy. Maybe you know these days too, where the invitation of the day is not clear like a checklist at all. And perhaps sometimes that uncertainty of a day can feel a bit freeing or open or filled with creativity or possibility, but sometimes it might feel a bit more like flailing, lacking direction or lacking purpose, lacking work that feels real. That's when I, for one, try to pay attention to the wisdom of many, of poets or workers or artists or activists, or the folks working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living, that you're on some different type of assembly. Something that for some is obligation or a sense of service or somewhere in between. And all of it, this work that feels tangible, bringing with it an awareness of what we need more of in the world, instead of cheap extravagance and low-price abundance of things, over a type of economy, a type of community that is rooted in shared resources, reciprocity, well-being of the common good. Be it school funding or investment in sustainable energy or remembering the work of generations to care for the world that we live in now. And from that place of gratitude, there's an invitation to reciprocity. What Robin Wall Kimmerer calls a bundle of responsibilities. I love that phrase. A bundle of responsibilities. Sometimes these responsibilities are clear and you have to just hold the bucket and pass it along. It's very clear what to do and when. Sometimes it's as clear as mud and you have to figure it out as you go. And sometimes you botch it, says the poet, and your plans just crumble. And you have to find some water to make it pliable and muddy again to create and form whatever might come next. The children who gathered up here today gathered as part of a long line of heretics, primarily. It's kind of an odd way to say it. Our sweet little heretics up here, but still true. Over the years, as I was reading these histories of our congregation again, written in there several times is that these universalists, for their belief in love, even as the description of that spirituality has shifted and changed over the years, their belief that love could overcome all, that all people were worthy of unconditional, unwavering love of God, of each other, of the world. The language they used in the 1890 written history of the congregation and then in the 1950s and by Dr. William Mayo, who spoke at the dedication of one of the churches downtown, was that our people have been ostracized, persecuted because of their beliefs, their theological freedom, their inclusion of all people. even their offering collections that they took up to benefit the poor, as they said, and more. We gather in this long line around those still burning embers of the stories that we carry with us, and we keep uncovering and finding and retelling these complicated stories of beautiful things and hard things. We gather in a long line of people and souls passing along the gifts of care and nourishment and time and resources, one little drop in the bucket at a time. Someone has turned to you in some way, I'm sure, be it an ancestor that you might know and might not, has turned to you, and no matter where you feel you are in this line, you are in that line because you are here now. Maybe it's a soul finding connection or belonging or inspiration or hope for their identity, or someone just coming for a good Wednesday meal or a small meditation group, or just some place to feel safely authentic in their identity or in their spirituality. We keep turning to each other, offering whatever we are able to offer: the kind word, the pulled-up buckthorn, the caring card, the meal, the call, the listening soul, the engaging conversation, the cup full of donut holes after service, or the joyful laugh, or the artistry of song. And we say, here, this is what I have. It's your turn to keep passing up and down the line something that is life-giving, church-thriving for us all. And it's not perfect. True, this isn't paradise, writes Lucille Clifton. But we come at last to love it. For the sweet hay and the flowers rising, for the corn lining up row on row, for the morning dove whose song opens the darkness, for warm rains and forgiving fields, and for how each day something that loves us tries to save us. Something that loves us tries to save us. Each day something that loves you, ancestor, child, or a worn bucket filled with water, tries to save you. And for right now, for today at least, it's right here. The hymn is Wake Now My Senses. I invite you to rise and bow your spirit as we sing.
Now my senses and hear
invite you as you're comfortable, place a hand on your heart or toward the sky or the earth in gratitude. Breathe deep the breath of life. Go yonder, and gather the people. Give them not hell, but courage and hope. Give them something of the love you have found here, and tell all the people that love is our home. Amen.
If everything that you thought you knew was turned upside down, opposite from your point of view, and how would you feel if the ground was really the sky, and all of this time you've been walking when you could have been flying? If you run 1,000 miles a minute, you can't expect to wear out a few pairs of shoes. If you forget how to love and take it for granted, you can't expect to wear out people close to you. And what if all the birds were flying just to show us, and all the trees were really holding the sky up, and everything that you do matters somehow? What if heaven and hell was right now? How would it be if you really created your life? Stories you told, the good and bad, that they come alive. And how would it change if your words were like nails and wood? You build your house, but you forget that it's just a house. You can rebuild it. What if all the birds were flying just to show us, and all the trees were really holding the sky up, and everything that you do matters in the end? What if all of our mistakes are forgiven? What if love is a lot of listening, a little bit of time, not pretending? We are caught up in a world of daydreams. What if loving what you have is everything? What if all the birds were flying just to show us, and all the trees were really holding the sky up, and everything that you do matters so much? How would you change your life? Oh yeah. How would it be if everything that you thought you knew was turned upside down, opposite from your point of view?